Oh, guys, Porter, I had to stop that video because Jude was not letting me continue. Yeah, so the question I was reading was asking, does the person who is applying as the main applicant need a photo? And what about the kids, the spouse? And the answer is everybody who is applying will need to have a photo taken, and all those photos must meet the requirements. So another person is asking Sam, I have a question. Let's say someone applies in USA, will there be a chance to win the lottery? So you can apply from wherever you are, it doesn't matter. Being in the US will not increase your chances. It will still remain the same. As we all know, this is this doesn't depend on the location, it depends on your luck. And the only thing I can say is you have to meet the requirements so that you don't get disqualified. But being in the US or being in Kenya, being in Qatar doesn't increase your chances of winning. Okay, the other person is asking, my kids are 21 years and are eligible to apply because they have the education certificate required. Should I still put them on my application as dependents? So the answer to that question is, as long as your kids are below the age of 21, you can include them. After the age of 21, you cannot include them. They are considered to be adults and they can apply their own application. If they were 18, you can still include them and they can still try their luck. So the other question I have is asking, can I add something on issues of education? If you don't have a minimum education, they consider work experience. Oh, that's somebody trying to clarify. Yeah. So if you don't have the minimum education required, they consider the work experience. That is very, very true. So another question is from Titus. Hello, KARANJA'S. Is it better to apply early or late? So applying early or late doesn't increase your chances of being selected. But what we know is the first week of application, the website sometimes have problems. We experience a lot of problems because of the traffic. Sometimes you may go there to apply and find yourself doing a double entry, which can easily disqualify you. Because once you hit enter, sometimes because of that traffic, it will not proceed, but it did. What I mean is you hit enter, you don't get the confirmation. But in most cases, your application have already gone. So you try again and hit enter again. So now you are doing two application and those can disqualify you. So what I'll say is once they open the application, give yourself some time until that website looks stable and now you can do your application with no problem. So, and whether you do it the first days, whether you do it the last days, it doesn't matter. Some people will tell you they have specific days when people are lucky. No, nothing like that. That is just a myth. Yeah, the reality is you have to put your application. And whether you put it the first day or the last day, all applications are considered the same time. But if you are lucky, if it is your time, you might be lucky whichever day you applied. So the other person is asking, thanks the KARANJA'S. I'm a Kenyan in Qatar. Will I feel Kenya or Qatar if someone lost KCSE certificate? Naweza apply. Yeah, if you lost your KCSE certificate, you can still apply because you can be able to get another certificate copy from the NEC, which you can use. So losing a certificate is not a reason not to apply. And if you are in Qatar, don't forget you are still a Kenyan. Qatar is just the place you are residing at the moment. So you are filling this application as a Kenyan. So, and I have Haron asking here, hello, the KARANJA'S. Please, with regards to the photo using studio light and natural light, which one is the best to use for the photo? Haron, I would say either way. The thing is, you're trying to capture the best quality photo. Sometimes if you do it inside a studio, since they don't have that natural light, they prefer using the studio light to make sure your face is visible. If you were doing it outside, then natural light will always be the best. But either way, as long as the quality of that photo is okay, it doesn't matter whether you go to the studio and use the lights or you prefer getting your photo outside with the natural light. As long as the photo meets those requirements, that's all they need. So Isaac is asking here, what if you don't have family name? Let's say my name is John Karanja. So Isaac, if you don't have the family name, there is a place on that form that tells you tick here if you don't have the last name, tick here if you don't have the second name. So you have all those options. If you don't have the last name, you just tick on that box. I don't have a last name. If you have the last name, you just put the last name. If you don't have the middle name, but you have the last name, then you tick I don't have a middle name. I hope that is clear. Margaret Kehanya, which are the best dates to apply? Margaret, as I have just said, maybe you missed that. I said there's no best days for doing the application. I have seen people do it the first day. I've seen people do it the last day. I've seen them win. I've seen people do it in the middle of the month and they still win. So there is no perfect date. But I have said the first week is very tricky, Margaret, because when you go to the website, sometimes the website have so many problems, and that can lead you to doing a double entry by mistake, which I would avoid. So try and give yourself some few days or a week. Make sure that website is stable so that when you're filling in, the traffic is not too much. Yeah, most people even try and do it odd hours, like at night when other people are sleeping. Yeah, as long as that website is working, there's no right time to do the application. Haron is asking, please, my wife is a seamstress. Is she qualified to apply for DV? Haron, I'll have to check that for you because we'll have to go to the labor website and check whether the career qualifies. I will send you back the reply on that. Okay, Movie Zone is asking, sir, is someone supposed to use hometown address or city address? As an example, my hometown, Kisii town or Nairobi. So it doesn't matter. You can use your hometown or you can use where you stay in the city. I prefer using the hometown because most of the people who like live in Kenya and other places, they keep on moving. So if you are in Nairobi, you are renting and maybe you might move to another apartment, so you want to use an address that is your original address. And that's why most of the people prefer using their home address, ushago, so that it's easy. You don't shift. Kama mimi nimetoka Thika, that doesn't change. But naweza kuwa I was living in Nairobi and now I have moved to Nakuru. But the address is not so important anymore because nowadays they don't send letters to people. They used to send letters and notify you if you have won. Nowadays, everything is online. So as long as you have that address, they will not even use it. So I hope that answers your question. So another question here. Please, I am a professional teacher with a degree as my highest qualification, but I have a low grade in my senior high school. Am I qualified to apply? Yes, Harun, you are qualified to apply. If you did not attain the grade they require, that is a D minor or something, you went ahead and furthered your education. So your degree can be used in that case, and you are qualified to apply for DV. So somebody is asking, how many times did you apply? I applied 7 times, and the 7th time is the only time we were lucky. Patricia is asking, kama birth certificate yangu inasema majina mbili kama Patricia Mutindi, but the surname is written on below. So this question is something I wanted to clarify. And thanks, Patricia, for asking it right now. So the thing is, I'll give a reference to Kenya because that's where we come from. Kenyan birth certificate or anywhere else birth certificate have only 2 names, your names. It does not include your family name. The reason is because your family name is derived from either your mother or your father. And your mother's name is on the birth certificate, and your father's name is on that same birth certificate. So let's say my name is William Kamau. William Kamau Kamango, that name. So the birth certificate will only have 2 names, William Kamau. But on my dad's, it will have his name, which will include the Kamango. And that's your dad name. So don't worry about the arrangement of the names on the birth certificate. That is how the government have designed the birth certificate. But your dad name is still there, either on your father or on your mother. And if it is not there, it is not even a problem. You can have another dad name that is not even on your birth certificate. So don't worry about that. When you are going to apply for your passport, that is when you are including all your 3 names. You have maybe used these 3 names in your school documents or other documents, so it doesn't matter. As long as your names are there and the passport bear those names that you are applying with, then you should be good. So the other person is asking, Martin, my ID names are different from my school certificate name. Is this a problem? So Martin, that is a problem, but this is how you can solve this problem. So many people have the same problem. I remember when we were in high school, that's when we were given the IDs, and some people would write even names that are not legal names in their other documents. And most of the people have that problem. So the thing is, the ID is never used in the embassy. They don't look at your ID, they look at your passport. So when you're filling your passport, if your names on the ID are different from what you want to put on your passport, as long as the third name you want to put on your passport is on your birth certificates, either on the father or the mother, they usually don't have a problem doing that. So you'll find even many people, the date of birth on the ID is not the right one, but on the passport, they have corrected it since they are using the birth certificate to produce the passport. The ID is just a reference that they use. Otherwise, the main document that produces the passport is the birth certificate. I hope we are together on that. So if your names are different on the school documents and on your ID, make sure when you're getting your passport, you're getting a name that is corresponding to your documents, the school documents and other documents that you have. I hope I have answered that question and it is clear. So now we go to we go to George. George Keforo. I have 4 names. George Alex Keforo Wakonyo. Wakonyo is the surname. How do I fill this, please? So, George, you know your names are 4, but many people have 3 names. And on your documents, if your documents say George Alex Keforo Wakonyo, then you're good with using the 4 names anywhere. If your passport or your school IDs have George Alex Wakonyo, it is okay, as long as the name Wakonyo can be traced back on your birth certificates. So I'm assuming that name, since it is your family name, it is on the birth certificate. And if you produce a passport that will have George Keforo Wakonyo, or we'll have George Alex Wakonyo. So George Alex Wakonyo, make sure all those names can be traced somewhere in your birth certificate. So the birth certificate is where everything comes from. So when you're filling your document, make sure if all the other documents says George Keforo Wakonyo, I'll use George Keforo Wakonyo as the name that will be on the passport. If the other document says Alex Keforo Wakonyo, I'll use Alex, because in your case, you have 2 names that are foreign, the George and the Alex. So which documents have George and which documents have Alex? Is George and Alex on the birth certificates? Can you tell me that down there, if George and Alex are on your birth certificates? Okay, let's proceed. So Haron is asking, please sir, during the interview process, if my wife is not educated and cannot speak English, but main applicant is educated. Is my wife required to answer the questions? So, Aaron, the thing is, the main applicant is the one that is considered when they come to your education level. But your wife will have to answer questions at the interview. But if you know she doesn't know how to speak English, you state that earlier before the interview so that you can be given somebody to translate for her. Because the person who is interviewing will want to know some things from your wife. Like maybe when did you get married, how many kids do you have? So those names, those questions will have to come from your wife. Whether she'll use a different language doesn't matter, as long as they will know in advance that you need somebody to translate for her. So that is not a problem. Okay. The other person is asking Haron Ongaro. I'm Haron Ongeto. I used to marry, but things didn't. Oh, I think you want to say you were once married, but things didn't work out. But she went with my baby. Was asking if I can add my baby in the DV form. Yes. So if either you were once married or not, or either you have a kid that you don't live with the mother, the kid belongs to you. So in the United States, kids belong to the mother and the father. Both of them have equal rights to the kid. So you can add your kid on the DV. And in case you win, when you are applying, I'm assuming you are applying single. When you win, you have a chance to come with your kid, as long as the mother consents that you can come with the kid. If the mother refuses, then that will be something that can go to the court and everything else. But in this case, you are able to apply. I will not leave the kid. Apply with your kid. If you become lucky, then the other things will follow. You'll just need a consent from the mother to say that she's okay with you immigrating with the kid. I hope we are together. Okay. So Paul Njoroge, I love your content. I am having problems taking a DV photo for my newborn baby. How do I go about it? This is something else I wanted to talk about. And Paul Njoroge, thank you for bringing it up. So when we were doing our process, we had a 6 months old baby. And I know how tough it can be to be able to take a photo that meets the requirements. Especially, you're talking about both ears need to be on the photo. So what we did when we went to the photo studio, they took a small sheet, they put it down, and then, so it's a white one. Let's say you have a white bed sheet. You put it down. When you put it down, you put the bed sheet down, you put the baby laying down on the back, and now you are taking your photo from above. So the baby is down, facing up, and now you're taking the photo from above. That way, it's easier for the baby. It's easy for you. I wish I can demonstrate. Let me see if I can do something here and demonstrate for you. that can work. So let's say, I hope you guys will see. So let's say this is where you are. This is the white sheet I'm talking about. This is your baby. Lay your baby down there and then take a photo from above. You take a photo from above. I hope this explains to you what I mean, Haron. Yeah, that question, that is a very tough question. I know that. And so many people have problem taking the photo of the kids. All right. Did that explain to you? You're pressing the sheet on there, the baby on, and you're taking your photo from above. I know it's crazy how to explain that, but yeah, I hope that explains to you how you can do it and be able to take a quality photo. So the other question. Okay, I'm going back to George Keforo. George, you said George Alex are in the birth certificate and also in my high school certificate and also in my passport. So as long as all of them are there, so you should be good. Don't worry about them. Yeah, the only worry I would have is if one of them is not somewhere on one document, especially the birth certificate, and then that name appears on another document like the school certificate. So if you choose George Keforo, if you choose George Keforo Wakonyo, you are good. If you choose Alex Keforo Wakonyo, you are good. But make sure you're putting all of them the way they are, George, Alex, Keforo Wakonyo, to be safe. So, Patricia, what if I applied for a loan and I'm done with the loan? Is it going to affect my interview? So, the funny thing about the DV, they don't concentrate on your finances. So, there are many people I know who won the DV and they didn't have the money to process. And they took a loan, processed the DV, left and came to America. They didn't pay their loan until they got a job in America and they were able to pay back their loan. So that will not affect you. So another question is from Mike Gitz. Mike, hi the Karanjas. Buddha, umehepa sana, especially this time ya DV, but I'm asking, can you add a brother as an adopted child after bringing him up? But I have not taken the adoption papers, and could this be denied? Yeah, Mike, I know I have been lost, have so many stuff going on. We are so tight, and that's why even this video, I wasn't able to do a video that I'm going to edit because I wouldn't have the time to edit. So I thought it's good I just come on live. We go through the questions and answers. But I have been trying to do the photos, edit the photos anytime I find some free time. So yeah, I know we've been lost. So on your question about the adopted brother, the thing is you have to make sure you get the adoption papers for you to be, for the kid to be legally yours through adoption. So if you don't have the adoption papers, then they will not consider that kid as your own kid. So in America, your kid can be either through blood, through adoption, and the other only way is a step kid. So any stepchild is considered as your child as long as you have married their mom. So in your case, you'd have to go to the court and get the required adoption papers so that you can be able to include that kid. I hope that answers your question. Mike, are you still checking on the photos? I sent some today. Yeah, Mike, I'm still checking on the photos, and I started from the first day as I come up, so I'll get to your photo as soon as possible. Mostly today or by tomorrow, I should be able to catch up with yours. Thanks. Is it okay if the baby eyes are closed? Can I take using a phone? So you can use a phone to take your photo as long as the phone takes quality photo. Nowadays, phones are even taking more quality photos than even the cameras. So as long as the phone is taking a good quality photo, you can use it. The eyes of the baby have to be open. So that is something you'll have to make sure you do whatever you can do. Either you ring a bell on top of the baby to look up and open the eyes, but the eyes have to be open. I hope that answers your question. So Aaron is asking, so joining the military as an immigrant, is it a good start? Aaron, the thing is, joining the military is good, but it depends on when you join the military. If you join the military immediately after immigrating here, in most cases, that would be a good idea. If you stay in America few years, it will be so hard for you to join the military since you'll have started making money, and the military doesn't pay so much money. The military gives you a lot of benefits, but not actual money. So if you start working and start making money outside, joining the military will be so hard for you since you have started making more money on your hustles, and now joining the military will not be adding you more revenue unless you are doing it part-time or you have never tried another job. This is your first job, you are young. I would advise young people to join the military since they can start from when they are young until they are like, how many years? So if you start the military when you are 20, you do your 20 years, by 40 years you can retire. So young people, it's an advantage since by the time you are 20s, you don't even have so many bills. But if you have bills to pay, you have a family to raise, you might not be able to join the military since you won't get time to do other side hustles and it will be tough for you. But young people, I think it's a good idea. Hope that answers your question. So George is asking, what if I say someone gets lucky and win and one doesn't have a host? What is your advice? So the host thing is a big thing. The thing is, let me explain to you, because a lot of people are worried about who is going to be my host, you know. For somebody to accept even to host you, you are a liability to them. Once this person agrees to host you, anything you do the reference will be this person. And that is why most of the people have a problem hosting others. Although there are other services that people get whereby somebody have like houses where he gives the hosting services. And in that case, it is easy. If somebody is, in that case, it is easy for somebody who don't have like a family member or somebody who don't want to go to a family member, you know, there are some cases like that. But in most cases, if you have a friend, a family member who knows you, who knows who you are, they will give you the accommodation as long as they have the space available. Because the other thing is the space. Look at my case. I have 4 kids. My mom is here, you see. Now we are like 7 people in my house. In that instant, I'm not able to host anybody else. But when I came here with 2 kids, I was able to host. And I hosted a friend with a family. So things like that. So if you are lucky and you have a problem getting a host, I know most of those people who have the hosting services, and I have referred some of you, and they have been able to sort them up. And in future, you never know if we happen to get a chance to, and we have more space, we have a house, another house, you know, things like that, we might be able to do that. But don't worry too much about the hosting. First, worry about winning. That's what I say. Because even if I am not able to host you, and I have a friend here, even where I live in Nebraska, and I approach my friend and say, you know, I have somebody who won the DV. The only thing they don't have is the host. I don't think many people will turn that down because they know the importance of winning. And you don't even need to host somebody for so long. Like most of the people, it's 2 months, 3 months, and they are gone, you know? Because, once you come here, you get a job. In 3 months, you should be able to be on your own as long as the person who is hosting you is able to move quick and find you somewhere, like an apartment, consign for an apartment, you know? Yeah, stuff like that. So don't worry too much about hosting, just win, and then everything else will follow. That's what I say. So, Osman, please, how many months will it take for new immigrant to be able to get settled and leave his host? So, it all depends with you personally. For me, I know it is possible in 2 months, depending on your host. As I said, depending on your host. You might get a host that wants you to stay in their house and take care of their kids. I have seen people do that, which is wrong, you know. They start working many hours and leaving you in the house when you come to their house. So those people are not willing to help you move out quickly. So the person I hosted in 1 month and 1 week, I was able to make sure they had a job. I had found an apartment, which they found through me, because if you have not been here for long, you cannot be able to get an apartment. But if somebody like your host have been here for long, they can be able to consign you for an apartment, or they can be able to know somebody who trusts them and will trust you through them to give you the apartment. So it all depends. So I would say 2 to 3 months in most cases, you should be able. So the first, second, and the third paycheck should be able to get your house and rent and started over. But if you get a host who wants you to pay part of his rent, then that might even take longer before you are able to save. But people move quick. That's what I would say. And there is one thing I have seen. So let's say you have a family and you are like many like us, a family of like 6, and you don't have somebody who is willing to host you with your 6, to host you with your other 5 people in your family. I have seen people prefer one of you come, set the ground, and then the others will follow in few months after that, which in most cases is a good idea, because when you look at even the hosting services, most of them want one person. They don't want you as a family. So if one of you can come and set the ground, then the others can follow. So one of my friends did that. The husband came, and in 5 months, they were able to get all the other kids and the mom here. So the husband had worked in 5 months. He had the air ticket and a house to be able to bring the other family members. So it's doable. It's doable. So the other question is from Paul. Paul is asking, are there some days that have higher chances of getting selected? No, Paul, I had answered that. Thank you, Jude. Jude is giving me some obstacle here. So I had answered that question. It doesn't matter when you apply, the day you apply, it all depends on luck. Whether you apply the first day or the last day or in the middle, it doesn't matter. So let's see if I have any other question. John Owino from Uganda, habari gani? I think I have answered most of those. Let me make sure I don't have any other question on my comments I haven't answered. So there's another question here from Mohammed asking, do you require the passport to fill in the DS 260? Yes, you require the passport to fill in DS 260. By the time you are getting, so if you get selected, you are applying for the DV, you don't require the passport. But when you get selected, from there, moving forward, you will need your passport. So I think that's most of the questions that we had to answer today. Unless you guys have any other question. So there's another question here. So is the host part required to get a visa? So this person is asking about the host again. So you don't require the host until you get selected. And when you're filling in the DS 260, that is when the host comes in. They require the information about the host and the permanent address of the host, since that's where all your document will be sent, like your green card and everything else. Dante's just joined and asked, can someone relocate with a 6 months baby, or it's better you leave them behind. Mtoi afike like 2 years, you file for them. So this is all dependent on how you see it. So daycare are very expensive here, but if you and your wife are able to come at the same time, coming with a baby is the best option, since you can work night and the wife can work during the day, and you can change in taking care of the kids even without taking them to the daycare. The other thing about leaving them and fighting for them 2 years later is you don't know how long it will take for the process to end. Sometimes it's been taking long than the 2 years. So if you have this chance, I would prefer you take it when it is available. We don't know about the future, you know. Nowadays, with all the political heat and everything changing, you don't know what they will say in future. They might even say you cannot be able to file for your kids if you did not include them in the initial application. So I'll do whatever it takes to come together with the 6 months baby. Okay. Have one question from John. Hello, can I use a physical address if I don't have a box number in the section where is address 1? Yeah, so your physical address, assuming you don't have a post office address, your physical address is what they are asking on that form. So let's say you live in plot number 15 in Thika, and you know the zip code of that place. So it's not like it has to be a specific address. And as I had said earlier, John, the address used to be important when they used to send out the letters to notify people who have won. Nowadays, it's just a formality that you have to write that address, and that address have to match with the other one you'll be writing moving forward from there. Otherwise, it is not something that they use anymore, but they need it in that form. So even if you used your friend address, it won't matter. That will work. Even if you don't have an address and I used my church address, I use my primary school address, it's okay. So that address cannot stop you from applying the DV. Okay. Let's see. Any other question? I think we have exhausted all the questions. We still have one that came in here. Dantes, what if I can find a host for the wife and mtoi? Anataka akuje kwanza peke yake. What can you do? What if I can find a host for the wife and mtoi? So I think you're asking if you don't find a host for all of you, but you can find a host for one person. Yeah, that one person, wacha akuje, afike. America is different. Mtu akifanya kazi tu miezi 2 America, haukuwa na air ticket, ufanye kazi tu miezi 2, uko na air ticket ya watu 4, utawalipia na wakuje. So kama shida ilikuwa ya ticket, utakuja, chapa job mbaya, utawaleta. Chapa job mbaya, si uko peke yako, fanya mchana, fanya usiku, chapa job hizo miezi kadhaa, tafuta keja, leta familia. So hata suppose you win na mtu akwambie naweza kuhost but siwezi pata space ya watu wengi, but I can host you ukuja kwanza, that is okay. Na kama venye nimewaambia, how fast you move depends on the host. Kama host wako atakuja akuweke kwa nyumba, it will take you long. Kama host wako atakuja akuchangamshe immediately, you might not like that host at that moment because amekuharakisha, amekuonyesha vitu, but later on you'll come to realize, oh, that guy alifanya poa because he pushed you to be able to do things quick. Instead ya yule host atakuja akuweka kwa nyumba yake, yeye aendelee kuchapa madoubles, make dough, na wewe unaendelea kuchunga watoto wake. Okay? Yeah. Me who prefer huyo host anakupush cause anakuonyesha it is possible. Go do it, you know? Yeah, mimi nilikuwa na host alinipush. In 1 week nilikuwa na license ya driving. The second week nilikuwa job, and from there tulienda faster sana. So same thing hata leo I see that was the best thing aliwahi nifanyia cause hakufanya nikuje nizubae nikae, you know. So I hope mnashika venye nasema. So I have another question from Mike. On the child adoption papers, should I get them before I apply, or I can get the papers next year after being selected? So when you get the papers will not matter as long as hiyo siku umeselectiwa, you have the papers. The only thing I would say, suppose you include the kid and going through the case kwenda through hizi koti zetu za Kenya, you know how it is. Sometimes they may take so long for you. And ukifika pale embassy na hauna hizo adoption papers, they might cancel the whole case. Utakuwa denied all of you. So kama hauna hizo papers kwa mfuko at the moment, usiweke mtoto cause unaweza add huyo mtoto ukiwa after umekuwa selected, unaweza ingiza huyo mtoto as long as uko na hizo papers za kotini. Hizo ndizo zitadetermine kama huyo mtoto anaweza ingizwa. And hiyo kesi, it will be so easy. You will tell them, when I was applying, I had not adopted this kid, but now I have finalized all the adoption papers and this is what I have, you know. Hiyo kesi itakuwa very easy to argue. It will not look like ni kitu umefanya specifically because of the DV. Na hiyo ni kitu possible. That is something that can happen in real life. Naweza kuwa sina mtoto alafu ni adopt mtoto later. That is something that can happen in real life. So I would prefer, kama una hizo papers, don't include the kid. If you get selected, make sure you get the papers, and when filling in the DS-260, include the kid. Okay, I hope that answers your question, Mike. Mwingine amesema vipi Karash? Sijasikia mtu ameniita hivyo for so long. Vipi Karash, huyu ni Mutuli. Great information tuned in Doha. Caregivers job salary ni how much in terms of different state? So hizi jobs za caregiving ni poa sana za kuanzia cause can you imagine ukikuja America hata na degree hauwezi pata job kama hiyo degree si ya huko immediately. So ukikuja na degree unaweza fanya masters ndio upate job huku. But hizi jobs za caregiving, unafika hivi, unachapa class wiki 2, unaanza job immediately. Job zimejaa, hata unakujiwa shule. Wanakuja shule wanawauliza nani anataka job, bado ukiwa shule. Na hizi job hautawahi kosa. Every state you step in, kuna shortage. So most states, hizi jobs at the moment, hii state yetu ni ndogo. I'm giving you a reference of state ndogo kama hii yetu. Wanaanza na kama $20 an hour. $20 an hour. Na huko unaweza enda uchape madoubles and everything. So I would say si kitu mbaya kuanzia. Na most people hata wana progress through your route, wanaenda kuwa nurses and everything. So kama uko hapo Doha, chapa $20 na uchape 1 week, unafanya 80 hours. Hiyo ni mtu anafanya only 8 hours. And then uchape hiyo hesabu 5 days a week, 8 hours times $20. I hope hiyo inakupatia the answer to your question. Kuna mtu hapa anauliza, Alexander Ndomo, is it easier to apply with a child who is less than 3 weeks old? How do you take the DV photo? Hiyo Alexander nilikuwa nimeonyesha. Nime demonstrate venye unaweza kuchukua picha ya huyo mtoto, muweke kwa a flat area, weka bed sheet ya white, mwekelee juu kama ameface juu. Take your photo from above. It will be easier than kujaribu kuweka mtoto kwa kiti. Pia itakuwa rahisi. All right. Yeah, nimeona exhaust hizo questions zote. And kama uko na another question, you can send me an email. Unaweza andika hapo kwa comment. I'll take a look at them. Wenye sijamaliza picha zenyu, I'm still working on that. So let's see what happens. All we can say is wishing you guys all the best during hii time application. So until next time, see you guys.